Welcome to our next episode of
Fandom
Family
Chats.
This is a production of Family Fan Clubs on Facebook. You can find us all over Facebook. You can find us all over social media under Fandom Family Chats. Look us up, get dialed in, get plugged in, and get ready to listen to some crazy people talk crazy stuff. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Fandom Family Chats. I'm Maureen.
I'm Shelby.
I'm Jeanette.
I'm Eve.
And today we are talking about the This Is Us series finale, not just season finale. It is the end of an era. We got our final piece of the puzzle today, or well, last Tuesday. You guys are getting this on a Monday night, but last Tuesday we got it. So it was a really nice close. I think I like that they didn't make this episode as sad as the semi-finale, because who wants to end on that depressing note? So I am a little shocked that we went with Rebecca's funeral, because I thought that they were going to leave it. So I'm only bringing this up so I have an opportunity to say I was wrong.
I was right.
Because I know how people love it when that happens. So I'm humble enough to admit it.
I will say though, even though we saw her funeral, it was not the focus of the episode. So
So I was kind of right.
you were not fully wrong. Let's say it that way. Okay?
See, now this is what happens. Everyone likes to say Maureen likes to believe she's right and everything, but every time I say I'm wrong, everybody on the podcast is like, well, actually, you weren't fully wrong because this happened, so you were kind of right. So
I'm an honest person. So if there's credit to be given, I give it to you. You know.
I do like that the scene. I had to be reminded of it, but that scene where they're showing them swinging their kids and all, and it wasn't just that they focused on one timeline. It was they showed all the parents pushing their kids, and I like that because I kind of, when I first started seeing it, I thought it was just going to be by timeline, but they didn't. They went through all of them as parents and showing the progression of them as parents pushing their kids on the swing. And it started with Rebecca's story, which I thought was really beautiful. And I felt like this whole episode was, and I kind of felt like this at the end of the last episode too. It was Dan Fogelman's convicting message to all the people watching the show, where Rebecca said, I just wish I was more in the moment rather than worrying about when it was going to be done. And actually, I was reading an article and Dan said that's how he felt about the show. That he wished he was more in the moment rather than thinking of how he was going to tie it together and thinking of how it was going to end. And he felt like he didn't do it. That's his one regret. And I like that he put so much of himself into the show. And I think that's why people related to it so well.
Yeah. I mean, it felt real. It felt like this is an actual family. This is, there was the good and the bad, and it was just really beautiful. The only thing with that swing scene, I just have one tiny little, I wish the last one, we could have seen Deja and Malik with their baby. Since we know she's but I guess maybe we didn't know what she was having yet at that point in the episode. So you would have had to been real.
Didn't we? I thought she said.
She does later on in the episode. So at the moment that the
right.
swing scene has happened, it wouldn't have been as big of a reveal. But I feel like you could have put them in neutral clothing and just, I don't know. That would have been a cool thing to see, I think.
With Jack and his wife, they didn't even really show the kid, did they? You just saw him pushing a baby because you didn't really see like the face.
That's true. Yeah. So they could have, that's the only, and it's not like it makes or breaks anything, but it would have just been kind of fun little, of seeing them continue it too. Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that I did love about this episode overall is all of the advice that was given throughout it. Like there was a lot of good life advice.
Man,
yeah, I agree.
And some of it's convicting. Like, okay, Dan, hammer home. I don't do a good enough job at that. Thank you.
I don't think anyone does a good enough job at like staying in the moment. I mean, like, and not worrying about the big things. I mean, and I liked hearing it because I was like, okay, reminder to myself, let's not focus on these big things. Let's just focus on the little moments, which is easier said than done, but.
I just love how the episode as a whole kind of just tied the theme of the show back together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know a lot of people were saying it wasn't a good enough series finale, but
I disagree. I think it's one of the best series finales I've ever seen.
No, I thought it was very lovely. Like Mandy Moore said, it was like a big hug.
Yeah.
And I mean, I want the series to go off with a bang. Like I wanted it to end, very sweet and, tie in, the theme of the show. And I think they did an excellent job.
Because you are saying goodbye. But like, I've never watched How I Met Your Mother, but I know a lot of people were ticked off at that ending.
Terrible.
I watched Seinfeld. And we were ticked off at the series finale ending of Seinfeld. That was dumb. So it's nice to have a series finale. You're like, oh, I feel good after this.
The one thing about this too that I thought was really beautiful, you know, everyone's complaining that they think, everyone in our group is complaining that they think it should have went on for longer. But Dan has known from the jump that this is where it was going to end.
And he knew it was going to be 6 years.
Yeah, and even Mandy said about, like, in an Instagram post or something, I forget what it was, they started filming the finale 3 years ago.
They did.
Which I think is so cool.
And I'm so glad
other show can do that.
They can't. And I mean, I have a thing, like, shows sometimes you push it to, and I won't name any names on anything here, but you push it so much, I think, to collect revenue and all this stuff to the point that myself, I lose interest. Like, I want you to like end on, and I'm not, there's several shows and I won't name any of them because I'm not going to offend any fans of these shows, but I like, there's a bunch of shows like typically 7 to 8 seasons, and I think you should be done, because what else can you do without it becoming repetitive or becoming just losing its gumption? And I mean, would I be opposed to a spinoff of This Is Us if they ever wanted to do it? Absolutely not. I would love it, but I don't need, or even a story similar with new characters. Absolutely, it was a great show, but I think this ended where it needed to end.
Yeah, it finished the arc of Rebecca Pearson, and also finished. It started. This unit started with Rebecca and Jack Pearson, and we got to see both of their lives play out in total. This particular brand show, it couldn't have gone on beyond that.
The one thing about this show, though, too, it was done so beautifully, but I don't think I'll ever be able to rewatch it.
I think I said that at first, but I'm going to at least once, because I want to catch all the little things that I now know.
Yeah.
I want to rewatch and see if my perspective is any different.
Yeah.
So after the swing set, we move from that sweetness of watching them thrive. And I think that's another tie into Rebecca too, because of what she says. And that's what they see in, I was so happy to see that they released her funeral program before the show, because I mean, I love the nonverbal stuff. I love the set pieces. I love the background things. And I think that's one thing, not the only thing, but one of the things that This Is Us and the team does really well, is these little background pieces. And on that, they quote her where she says, do the big things. And so this swing scene was a throwback to Rebecca, what she said, and watching them live out what she said, and watching her live out what she even said.
Yeah.
And so then we go from that into the funeral and watching them all prepare for the funeral. And part of me, the reason I thought they weren't going to end the funeral was because I thought, oh, it's going to be so sad. I didn't cry. I didn't cry at all this episode. I got emotional when the big three were sitting on the steps, though. And when they, at the very end, I got emotional, but I didn't cry.
I didn't cry here. Well, I mean, I got emotional. I didn't full on cry until the end. We can talk about that later, but, I didn't cry here. Like when I laughed a whole lot during Beth's worst case scenario, which I just loved that, because Randall was like, I don't need this. And she's coming up with some crazy ones. Like, even Miguel, she's like, I forgot about him. Maybe you'll want to go to Puerto Rico and visit, find out about his great grandmother. And I thought it's funny because it's such a Randall kind of thing that, he could spiral in those sort of ways. And I love that they just know each other so well. It was a nice way to sort of like end their story too, of like this game that they always play that I think is just really cute.
Even how they communicate with each other, because when she just sat there staring at him, he was like, woman, what do you, and I love whenever he calls her that. I don't know why, but it makes me like giggle. I don't know why.
It makes me laugh because my husband calls me woman all the time. He does the same thing. Like if I'm like bugging him, he'll be like, woman, what do you want? And so I don't know.
And he does that too.
I love it.
But I was so glad though that we saw the worst case scenario though, because that's something that's been consistent throughout the show, but like it's not shown that much. It's only during like big moments for them. So I was kind of glad that it was shown here, because it was definitely a big moment. And like how Beth was like, well, now you just lost your last parent. How do you feel about that?
So harsh, but it's true. Like, yeah. Well, and I think it showed Randall's growth so much that honestly, all of these worst case scenarios, they were not a possibility for him at that moment. He was steady and he was good, which is so far from where he started at the beginning of the show. So that was, I liked seeing that too.
Where he was emotional and he was sad, but the
What'd he
right
say?
amount.
The appropriate amount of sadness, which, you know, yeah, I mean, of course you're sad, but he wasn't going to have a meltdown, you know?
Although picturing Randall and Beth and their kids in an RV traveling around the country was the funniest imagery to me.
Absolutely.
The other thing too, though, that Beth said, that it was weird when we heard it, in my opinion, but she said, have you made a decision about the fried Oreos yet? And at first, so my head, I was like, okay, was fried Oreos something that Rebecca liked? Is it something that I missed?
Mm-hmm.
But then like it kind of tied in then when they were all talking together, which we'll talk about later, but it threw me for a loop a little bit.
Yeah, I was
right up until the very end, they're setting things up, even though they couldn't go into another episode to play that out. They're still following the same format that they followed for the last 6 years, final episode. And I really, really smart.
Yeah, because you guys know, like sometimes I don't pay attention as much as I probably should, so I thought that I missed that, but
no, I was confused too. I was like, wait, what about fried Oreos?
I was like, yes, fried Oreos are delicious. Always the fried Oreos.
I've never had one.
I was like, why would you need to make a decision on fried Oreos? They're amazing. The answer is yes. They're so good. Next time you go to a fair,
or make them yourself. They're delicious.
We've made them at home once.
I think part of the reason that we got confused too about the fried Oreos is because she said that when he was writing the eulogy, and when we looked down, when the camera shot down, all we saw him write was "she's magic." Mom was magic. That's all we saw the eulogy. And remember, that's the thing that he said in family meeting, is he looked at them and he said, "That's not mom. Mom was magic." And Kate kind of reprimanded him and said, "You need to really look at her." And then in his eulogy, he went back to "Mom was magic." And I think part of the reason why he was struggling with that is because he wanted to say all these grand things about her and all these amazing things about her, because Rebecca Pearson was an amazing woman. I mean, look how long she parented those kids on her own.
Yeah.
But he couldn't, because he realized that she, just like he had shifted and grown and changed, his mother had shifted and grown and changed. And the word magic wasn't the only way to define her, because in the end of her life, she was still Rebecca Pearson, though he couldn't define her as magic anymore. And I think he was really struggling with that term because of how he was reprimanded rightfully and honestly no, you need to really look at mom. If you're saying she's no longer magic, you need to look at her. And I think maybe it was the word magic was redefined for him, because in the end of her life, she was still, the scene that will still make me cry, even just talking about it, is, and he brought that up, she grabbed my hand at the end. He brought that up in this episode. So even at the end, she was magic. She hung on until her daughter got there. She did hear her voice and she held up. That's magic. That's a woman who has boundless strength. And didn't cry during the episode, starting to now, but she had so much to give, even at the very end. And so for him to say she's magic, I think he was really struggling with that phrase because of how he had to redefine it.
Yeah.
And I thought the other thing that I thought was really nicely done about this episode too, while Maureen composes herself, is, Randall, one of the last things that Randall said to Rebecca was, "Tell Dad that we said hi," and then, or hey, and then like it's shot to Rebecca and Jack in the bed, and she's like, "Hey," and then like that's kind of when she squeezed his hand, and then I think that's when she basically passed on.
Yeah, and so much was said with that hand grab. So much. It was, "I'm so glad to see you again." It was, "I love you so much." It was, "I'm sad to go." Like, there was so much that she put into that squeeze that Randall got to. I can't keep talking about this.
Well, like there was the moment that I got super emotional, and I'm surprised you didn't too, was the talk that he had with Deja, and she was revealing that she was having, she told him to do the gender, and then she says a boy, and that look on his face was just, I just loved it, because the poor man, like he said, he's been living with women forever, and his little speech about
made me laugh real hard. It didn't make me cry.
Well, but the part that made me cry was when she said she was going to name him William. And she said that she didn't, even though she didn't know him, that she knew Randall, and so that she knew that he was a good man through Randall. And I don't know, just because I think, Randall was even talking about like all of these things about William, and so just the thought that even though she didn't meet him, William gets to live on through not even just the girls that met him, but also through Deja and through now his grandson. So all of that's living on. It was just a really nice continuation, and I loved it. So I got a little teary-eyed. I didn't cry here, but I got definitely teary-eyed on that talk. And then his little dance was just the funniest.
For me, some of the most intelligent conversations that came out of this show was between Deja and Randall.
Mhm.
She was wise beyond her years, and I think it was because of all the crap that she had to go through.
Mhm.
But she gave Randall some of the best advice. You know, she snapped him out of some of the stupid crap that he used to do.
Yeah.
I love Deja. I mean, I really, really do. And her whole talk with him about how, you know, like, it's not over, you can still be a grandfather, because he was starting to spiral a little bit, but he got himself out of it.
Mhm.
And, you know, then like all the flashbacks to William, which you guys know William was one of my favorite people.
Mhm.
And it was just like, it kind of just tied everything together. Like, it was nice to see him again.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
even though we saw him the episode before too.
But it was a different capacity on this episode that we saw.
Yeah.
It was William
Yeah.
that we saw.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And it was just a nice way to kind of bring home, you know, that people are, no one's ever really gone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Also, that family is family, even if it doesn't look the way everyone grandizes that it should look.
Mhm.
Deja is a girl who was adopted at the age of 15, who fully knew her real biological mother and was
Mhm.
brought into this family and continued this family with a man that she didn't meet from her new dad's father. Like, they redefined what family is. And I
Mhm.
think they did it so well.
They really
This-
did.
The scene that I got emotional about with William, oh my God, I swear I did not cry at all on this episode. And I can't like recap it without losing my mind.
I don't believe you now.
I'm a liar.
I think you're wrong about that.
But it helped that I was playing a game on my phone while watching, because I thought I was gonna be really sad. So I was trying to divide my attention. When that flashback to William when he's saying goodbye to Tess, and you know, he says his thing to her, and then he's out in the hallway with Randall, and he talks about how he's not sure how they'll remember him or if they will.
Yes.
And Randall's like, they will, all of it. Like, oh.
Yeah. And I think that was what was so beautiful about her
Yeah.
choosing to name him William, because
Mhm.
obviously she didn't meet him, but these stories were shared about him, and she felt strong enough about him because of these stories.
Yeah.
She's passing it on to her kid, which means she will one day tell him about the man he was named after. And so
Mhm.
William will live on. And now it's going to make me emotional talking about this too, but
The other thing is too, Deja called Randall dad this episode. I know we've kind of debated this a little bit as to whether or not she has before. And like, when I was rewatching with Kenny's grandma, she does call him Randall, like most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
And I don't think that this is the first time that she called him dad by
No.
any means, but the fact that she did call him dad in this episode too kind of just hammered home, like, this is her father now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
She calls him dad in those moments, just like when with the worst case scenario, when we can gauge how bad the situation is by them playing this game. We
Mhm.
can gauge how intense emotionally it is for Deja Frog when she calls him dad. Because I don't remember a lot of times when she just said, hey dad, or you know, something like that. I remember a lot of times when she says, you are my dad.
Yeah.
And tells him, you are my dad. And
Yeah.
those are in high intense emotional moments.
Mhm. And I think, I'm trying to remember, I don't think she does call him dad till late in her teen years. Maybe in the
Mhm.
last couple seasons we've seen her say it. But I mean, it makes sense that now that she's an adult and sort of past all of the teenage angst,
Yeah.
that she probably calls him dad all the time. You know, I mean, she's probably been able to recognize that he's.
But it's nice that they show us
Absolutely
the key moments when she calls him that.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think too, going back to the funeral, I think it was really smartly done. We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but how the funeral, you didn't hear anything anybody said.
Mhm.
I loved it. I
Yeah.
thought that was so well done, where you just hear the music over it. And I don't think I'm going to be able to hear it. Roche tagged us in that thing in our group.
Mhm.
Was that wasn't all of the episodes, was it? Like the
I haven't
titles
watched
kept
it
coming
yet,
up.
so I'm not sure. I saw
But
she tagged me, but I haven't
That
seen it.
song,
Yeah.
I will never, ever, ever be able to hear that song and disassociate it from This Is Us. I can't do it, because it's
I know.
always the emotional. Like, I picture Kevin crying during that song and Randall crying. Like, I can't think of it without that.
Yeah.
But I don't even remember what song they played during the funeral, but it was a similar style of song.
It was.
And you see Randall talking, but you don't hear what he says for the eulogy. You see
Mhm.
Kate and Kevin saying stuff, but you don't hear what they say. But you can look on their faces, and you can see smiling, and you can see sadness. And I think that's such Dan Fogelman, and not just him, I don't even know who directed this episode, but the directors of the episode do a really good job of showing that both sadness and joy can live in the same space. And I think that's what they showed in the funeral was, yes, it's terribly sad that the show is ending. It's terribly sad that Rebecca has passed on, but look at the joy that's behind. And it's just, they do a really good job intermingling feelings and people and lives. And I think that was really, really demonstrated in the funeral.
The only thing that I was disappointed that we didn't get to see was, in the funeral pamphlet or whatever you want to call it, it said about Jack singing. I kind of wanted to see that, but other than that, I was kind of glad that we didn't.
I don't think we saw him get up there, did we? Because I was waiting for that. What, Eve?
It was just Kate singing, or
She's
they
talking,
showed
I
her.
think. Or was she singing?
I thought I saw her singing.
I thought she was singing.
Okay. I did, because I just thought that was written that she was talking with Kevin or something. I don't even remember. I couldn't remember what the pamphlet said. And I do like, I mean, all these characters have just changed. And that's the great thing about the writing is they haven't changed in essentials. They've just changed in how they've grown healthily. But like Nikki is still the same.
Oh my gosh.
Still grump that he was before, but he's more stable.
He's in a lovable grump.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that talk, I don't
I
even
love
remember what
Nikki.
he said. I know he's one of my favorite characters. Every time he's on the screen, I'm like, oh, you make me happy.
I thought I was going to die laughing when he was talking to Kevin. Like, your parents would be so disappointed in you. But he called him not a jerk, but
he cussed at him.
He did. Maureen might yell at me if I say what he said.
Go ahead, you can say what he said. It was on the show.
I can.
Yes.
He said you're a dick, right? Or he said what a dick.
He said you. He walked away.
He said you dick.
Yep.
You dick. That's what it was. I knew it was.
So glad someone else said it for me because I could not say it.
No, but I love Nikki. He's been consistently one of my favorites too. But he his little talk with Kevin, I mean, like you guys said, it shows how much he's grown as a person. Like he was talking about how he was living all happy in his little mobile home all by himself, and then you just had to come knock on my door and bring me family. And then he said, who would have known I would be at my brother's wife's funeral? And then when he walked away, he said what he said. And I just, like, the whole time he was talking, like, I was calm, cool, and collected. And then when he said what he said when he was walking away, I just lost it. Like, I was dying.
It was funny.
I was like, that's such a Nikki move.
And how did he word it? He said that the benefit of not caring is that when someone goes, you're not sad. And so seeing that Nikki was feeling the loss, I don't know what is wrong with me right now, that Nikki was feeling the loss of Rebecca after he didn't get to, because I tied it into Jack in my head.
That's what it was. Yeah.
He wasn't there for the end of his brother's life or even much of his brother's life, but he got so much of his brother through those kids and through Rebecca, and how sad oh my gosh, how sad he was when she died.
Are you sure you didn't
unreal
during this episode?
This is what Dan Fogelman has done to poor Maureen. She can't even talk about it.
Oh, thanks a lot, Dan.
Emotional damage here.
On a funnier note, did you say in our group that a bunch of the people were talking about how we should make it a This Is Us support group because it like ruined us?
So, because Milo put out the thing first on his notebook where he wrote the excuse, but then This Is Us, I don't know who came up with the first. I think Milo actually did. And then the show put out one that you could print out from Dr. K, which is amazing and brilliant. And when I was watching, I was like, people aren't going to need it. This episode's not that sad. But now that I'm talking about it, like I feel like I need a doctor's note.
I was wondering why you said you didn't cry, because it was definitely emotional.
No, I didn't cry. Well, I haven't cried the past 3 episodes, and everyone said that they were bawling.
You didn't cry on the train? Are you a robot?
But see, I'm weird. I didn't cry on the train until the very end. Like,
I cried several times in that show.
I didn't cry. I didn't cry on Miguel's episode. I didn't cry on the train. I didn't cry on the last episode.
Wow.
I cried at Miguel's episode, and then I didn't cry for the train until like the very end.
Oh, there were so many. When Beth was talking, I cried. When Toby, thank God, lightened it up a little bit.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The Katobi episode was the one that made me cry the most. And so, like, what we got in this episode was, it made me feel
sweet
good
tears. Yeah.
because I had felt that loss so hard.
Mm-hmm.
But to see him in such a good place here was just really nice.
And I think, that talk that he had with Kate too, Toby has just shined in the last couple episodes because he really, when he said, because how did he ask her? He said, can I do something that's probably completely outside the bounds of ex-husband, something like that? And Kate was like, yes. I love their relationship now. There is none of that. And the reason we hated Kate for so long was because of the tension and the strife and the pain she was forcing on Toby over and over and over again. That's why we didn't like her. But now we see that now that they're separate and they're both happy and settled and they both feel safe, their relationship is so good.
They're better as friends for sure.
They are.
And they both still love each other so deeply, but it's not like I want to be with you love. It's a familial love. It's you're the father of my children, you're the mother of my children. We are family and we will always be family kind of love. And it's so good to watch them talk together. And the things someone's gonna have to remind me, but the things that he said to her, right, then other than I love you. But what was the other thing he said to her? Because he said something first. And then he was like, she said, oh, that's
it was like three.
Yes.
It was like three things, and I love you was the last one, but I can't remember what the other two were.
And he said in the middle, and she's like, oh, he's like, oh yeah, they get more intense as it goes. He ended with I love you.
I was trying to look it up here because I couldn't remember.
I think it's really brilliant the way they did the whole Kate and Toby kind of falling apart, because they made us so, like, I was so emotional over their marriage ending to the point where it was like my marriage was ending.
Yes.
And now we're at the point where we're like, okay, well, now I can see how they are still family and everything's going to be okay, which is exactly what Toby was going through.
Yeah.
I was like, dang it, Dan, that was brilliant.
And when you picked a side for who you were on in the marriage, it was like everything, because I was Team Toby. I was 100% Team Toby. So every time Kate said or did something, like I felt like it was attacking me personally. Like, whoa, no, you don't get to do that to me. And that was why I disliked her so much, because I felt personally attacked by the things that she was doing to Toby.
And see, that's how I felt too, because like whenever Toby would do something like a little questionable, I'd be like, sir, I've been defending you. You need to calm down.
Yep. So Toby says, I'm like an old woman. My glasses are on top of my head so I can read. If it's okay with you, I would like to say 3 things that will surely cross multiple ex-husband lines and protocols. Proceed. Okay. Number 1. She was extraordinarily proud of you. I should not be the one to read this.
He was extraordinarily.
I'm extraordinarily proud of you. That was number 2. And then he went, they progressively get more and more intense as we go. Gotcha. And the third one, it's a real doozy. Today is a doozy, Kate says. And he says, so I love you, kid. And she says, I love you. And he said, and even though our marriage didn't go the distance, if Doc Brown showed up right now and offered me a ride in that DeLorean, my gosh, I would. Do
you want to screenshot it?
No,
and send it.
I got it. I would go right back to that weight loss support group and make stupid faces at you. And then there was a pause, and he said, "That's a Back to the Future reference." And she said, "I know, I was married to you." I just love their relationship. I love what they have now, and I love how they're able to. Because I think in their marriage they couldn't see each other, and now they can see each other, and
and they're just able to coexist within the same space with such ease now. And it's not nearly as cringy having them be together, because towards the end of their marriage, it's like you're just waiting and waiting and waiting for Kate to say something to piss him off, because I was totally Team Toby. So obviously it was Kate's fault. But it is nice to see them coexist within the space. So I'm glad they were able to fast forward so many years so that we got a chance to see that.
I do wish, though, that we didn't know ahead of time that they were going to break up, because I feel like that distorted my whole image of.
I don't know. Every episode, I just got more and more mad at how she was treating him. So I don't know if knowing they were going to end up, I think it would have made me, if I knew he was happy, it would have made me less irritated at Kate if I knew in the end he was happy. But I think knowing of the divorce, I don't know that really swayed me as much. I think I was mad because I knew he was going to end up sad, but watching him be sad in every episode also ticked me off. So I'm not sure. We don't see in the last few episodes, we see almost none of, like, obviously his 3 girls were with Randall on the steps of the cabin, right? But it's Deja nominally in the last few episodes who's talking sense to Randall, who's having deep discussions with Randall, not Tess and Annie.
Yeah.
And of course, Tess and Annie say a little something here, but it's mostly Deja who is like leaning into Randall.
Mm-hmm.
And
But it's been that way though throughout the series.
I know.
Since Deja's been in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have the most, I don't know if they're the most like each other, but they definitely have a different bond than, and I mean, I won't say a better bond, because I'm sure, I mean, I'm parents of multiple kids. It's not different. It's not any better or worse, but it can be different.
Yeah.
And I think him and Deja just have maybe the sort of bond that he had with Rebecca is sort of reciprocated with, he just has that kind of bond with Deja.
And I think because he met Deja after he met William. And I think for him, it was so present in his mind that the family he grew up in was not really his own by blood. So I think he kind of knew how to speak to Deja, and he understood the pain because he now knew William, and she was leaving a mother that she knew to come with him. So it was kind of that he was able to reach her in a place where the other girls didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
And I think he felt, I don't think it was just that he understood, but I think he felt the need to reach her in that place. And so he kind of not pushed harder, but he fought harder to communicate with her on that level in that way, because he knew that she was going to have some pain left over from that. And I think that really spoke to Deja, and that's why she connected with him so deeply.
Yeah.
And I think too, it kind of showed their relationship too, that even though Beth knew that she was pregnant, because I think that any mother would, but she told Randall, and then Randall was like, I've got a secret. Like, it was just kind of cute. I know that was like, that wasn't this episode. I don't think that was the episode before, but then, even this episode, she told Randall about it being a boy, and she didn't even tell Beth that we saw. So, I mean, that just goes to show too, Beth was kind of like trying really hard to be a good mom to Deja and stuff. And like Deja, I don't think Deja took it as well because of her having a mom. Like, she still saw Shauna, that was her mom's name, right? Like
I don't remember.
In light, kind of. And then, she kind of thought that Beth was kind of taking her place, where she didn't really have a dad figure, I don't think. So it might have been a little bit easier for her to accept Randall and get closer to Randall too.
Well, I think at first she was like that with Beth, but I think she definitely, as time went on and Beth was there for her on repeat, I think she got more connected to Beth, because even Beth in the last episode said, I am that girl's mother. I knew she was pregnant before she did. So I think that they did have a close relationship, but I think that's twofold. I think one, this show is about the Pearsons. And so I think that they hit that with Randall a little harder because he's the OG Pearson. But I also think that they showed us in other ways how connected Deja was to Beth, but that there's no way that she could have the same connection to Beth that she did with Randall, because again, we talked about that connection that Randall had with her going through adoption and knowing your other biological parents, and still, so I think that there's always going to be something that Beth had with Deja that Randall didn't have, and the same with Randall. But in that moment on the steps, when Randall's sitting there and the big three come up, and that's when the kids are like, we'll leave you alone. And they had that talk. I will say that I laughed so hard when Randall exclaimed when she told him it was a boy, and he was like, woo, and like he's screaming, he's like, yes, finally. That kind of reaction, I almost peed my pants laughing.
Because we probably see our husbands having the exact same reaction one day if they ever get a grandson.
I have 3 daughters and I have a female dog in my house. That's what I have in my house. My husband is literally the only dude in my house.
I have male pets, so I guess I
don't have any male pets.
We were at a party, just at our end of the year party on Friday night, and it just so happens, like, we were laughing because the people that lived there, that dad, he was like, do you realize that every male in this room only has daughters? He's like, have you all ever looked around your house and just realized this is it? I am going to be surrounded by women for the rest of my life. And all the men were like, yeah.
I was excited. Like, I did laugh really hard when that happened. But then you see after that, when he's talking to the big three, he's like, I got some good news on a sad day.
I thought he was going to tell him. And I was like, no, Randall,
I thought too.
So I'm glad he didn't. It's not his to tell,
And I thought it was really sweet the way they had the secret thing. because he could tell they were all sad. And so Randall started it. And that's why he said it, because he wanted them to know that, because I mean, you look at it and Rebecca really has bonded them. Rebecca was that every time Kevin got mad at Randall, it was Rebecca in the middle who was pulling them together. Every time Kate felt pitted against Randall and Kevin, Rebecca came in. So Rebecca has always been the glue. So the fact that Randall, and this is like a shining episode for Randall. I feel like a lot of them have been.
Yeah.
But him saying that when he closes his eyes and thinks of family, it's them, he thinks of first.
Yeah.
There were some people who were upset about that.
Yeah, I wasn't upset. I don't feel the same as him. I don't feel that when I picture my family, I picture my husband and my kids first. I mean, but there are also there are multiples. And so I wonder, I know bonds tend to be tighter between siblings that are multiples. So maybe that plays a part into it. I mean, obviously I do think of my mom and my brother, but I mean, first I do think of my kids, my husband, but I don't know. I didn't see anything wrong with it though. I mean, your family, he didn't say that the others weren't his family too. It's okay.
Yeah, because he said he thinks of them first before he thinks of his kids. And like, I honestly, I'm the same way. Like my kids and my husband are my family, but I think that it's almost like I'm more possessive over my husband and my kids because those are my kids. They are mine. And my husband is my husband, but my family, it's, when you think of family, it's, yes, they are my family. They're my immediate family. But for me, I got where Randall was coming from, because I start listing off all my brothers and sisters in my head. Like when people are like, hey, are you, who's your family? Like, I don't think to say my husband or my kids, because I feel like what they're asking is, who are you related to, kind of thing. Yeah. So that's where my head goes, is my siblings and my parents. And so I got where he was coming from. And I think that for him to say that, the reason why it was such a pivotal moment was because he was saying, I didn't need mom to make you guys important to me. You were already important to me. You were already.
Well, I think they were worried too. Like Kate even said, she thought they were going to drift. And so this was his way of, saying like, no, we're not drifting, because you are my family and you will always be my family. And so that was a nice moment too, because that's what popped in my head. I mean, that happens a lot when parents go, or whoever the matriarch or the patriarch of the families are. You hear about that, the other people drift, and, you have to make a conscious effort to still get together for Christmas and still do these things when you don't have the people there that normally would coordinate these events. So it was a nice, as a fan, to just know that in my head, they're still doing the Pearson Thanksgiving all together, even with neither one of them, with Rebecca not around and stuff. So it's nice.
It seems like if a major person in your family passes away, it seems like it either makes or breaks the family. Like I know when my Nana passed away, she we didn't realize it when she was alive, but literally no one talks to each other now. She was the reason that we were all connected.
But that's true. Sometimes it does. It does, especially when you don't live real close to each other.
And I think the opposite is also true. Like death can also bring families together too.
Yeah, I'm sure it can make you realize what you need to appreciate too. So,
but I think in a family like the Pearsons, where Rebecca was the reigning matriarch, who forced, not by, benevolent means or anything, but she basically forced that connection by, no, we're not stopping this. We're not giving up on this. We're all going to be together. We're in this together, sort of thing. I can see how that would be a fear.
The other thing is too, that Rebecca said, was that not to let her illness or diagnosis stop them from doing big things. And we saw during their talk, they have plans now. Kevin's planning to stay home more because that's where he loves to be.
I wonder if that's before, because I thought he was already at that house.
I think he made. I feel like he was just, gosh, what's the word? I feel like he was just restating the fact that that's where he wants to be, because I love the part where he said, I want to spend more time at home. I love my home. And I don't know why that's the part that got to me, but when he said, I like my home, I was like, oh, well, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
I think it's because that's what he's been searching for this whole series, and just knows he has it.
Because, home can mean lots of different things. It's not just the house that you live in.
Yeah.
So, and I think Kevin, like Jeanette said, Kevin spent the entire series looking for, a home, a family, and a place where they could all be together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Kevin's staying home. Kate's planning to open up a bunch of schools around the world for blind kids to learn music.
I love Kevin's response to that.
So they're gonna be jealous that they can, like, you know, what was it?
Too many blind kids have talent.
Yeah. Then they also said that they were going to be jealous of the hearing or the seeing. I don't know, something he said, like basically like the kids that could see were now going to be jealous of these kids because they have so many great resources. It was fun how they were just hyping her up in that way.
I just love how their sweet moments of like being scared that, you know, they were all going to drift. Just they eased that conversation so well into just sitting there laughing and cracking jokes. Because I'm like, that's exactly what my family did when my bubby passed away. We were getting together and we were sad. And then the next minute we were sitting there, you know, laughing till our stomachs hurt. So I thought it was nice how they did that, because I think at one point I think it was Kevin said, you know, if you drift, we're going to drift right out there with you.
Yeah.
Then Randall said, I'm sorry, do you know how to drift? I don't remember if you ever learned how to swim.
Yeah, that was good. And then we also found out what the fried Oreos meant in this conversation.
He has to go to some state fair, the Indiana State Fair.
Indiana, yeah, it was Indiana.
Was it Indiana?
Yeah.
State Fair, and basically like I guess like campaign for himself.
To be president.
Yeah, he's gonna run for president. I love this.
I think that he would be great.
Yeah, and because he said that the connection there is if you are at these state fairs and you're schmoozing the people and you're seen as a person of the people, where you're eating the fried Oreos with them and you're shaking their hands and you're out there talking to them and canvassing and you get their approval because of that, then you're a shoo-in. That's a lot. I mean, if you got to do it, there's 50 states. That's a lot of fried Oreos.
But you know, they're good. Maybe you can have a deep fried Twinkie or something.
I also love that when Beth asked him, he said, I don't know yet, but he told the big three first before he told Beth that that's what he was going to go do.
Yeah.
Watching these guys talk about what their future plans are, it was really nice that it was interspersed with flashbacks from their childhood. And that I kind of love the, we have a free day. What are we going to do? I kind of really love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love seeing Lonnie, Mackenzie, and Parker again, because I was
real
so
names.
nervous.
Okay, real names.
Yeah.
Who are those people?
That version of the big three.
The middle big three.
The middle big three. I was scared that we weren't ever going to get to see them again, because you know they're too old now. So it was when I read that they'd recorded those scenes like 3 years ago, I was like, oh yes, we're going to get to see them. So I was
they
really
even
excited.
thought ahead, knowing we would be missing them and that we would need to see these three one last time. That was nice.
Yeah. And for me, there was a lot of good stuff with the flashbacks, but the pin the tail on the donkey thing, like how we saw how the whole thing came about, that was so sweet. Like the whole reason that they got the pin the tail on the donkey was because on the box it was a little blonde boy, a brown haired girl, and a colored little boy. And they decided that it was a sign, and they got it when they were a baby, before they could even play ping. Yeah, before they could even play ping the tail on the donkey, they got it when they were a baby, and they've had it basically all these years because it was at the cabin. We saw in a flashback that it was brought to the cabin.
And I love that Kate is the one who said, I'm worried we're going to drift. But in the flashbacks, we can see that the boys didn't want to do anything, and all Kate wanted to do was spend time with her family. That was it. That's all she wanted. The whole day.
She's so sweet.
She wanted to play Foursquare with her family. She wanted to play Pin the Tail on the Donkey with her family. She wanted to watch family movies with her family. It makes sense that she's the one concerned about them drifting apart.
The other thing too, the Foursquare, I just thought about this, but that was brought up too with the kids were playing Foursquare outside of the cabin too. But yeah, and then even Jack said, you know, you boys don't know it yet, but Katie girls got it right. Like, which I thought was so sweet too, because I mean, we know that Jack always kind of had like a sweet spot for Katie. That was his little girl, but and the boys being grumpy the whole entire time, but then you find out that they were actually being bullied, which is, I thought they were just being grumpy pants, but the fact that they were being bullied was pretty sad.
I love the conversation Jack had with Randall though. Randall's like, please don't make a joke. And Randall's like, or Jack was like, I don't know how to discipline a kid who's harder on himself than I could be. It's very confusing.
He's not wrong though.
No, he's not. I mean, what's he gonna do? Randall's already, he's like, that kid is never gonna have, he's never gonna recover from this ever. Like,
He will. Yeah.
Randall, that's how his tiny little head worked.
I know.
Was that any offense is I've ruined someone. It's not even I've embarrassed this person. It went right to I've completely ruined this kid's entire life. Like, oh, that's a heavy weight for a kid to carry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But God love Jack. I mean, he just is always right. He always knows exactly when to parent and when not to parent. Yeah. I mean, he just really rides that line so well. I love it.
And then poor Kevin getting made fun of with the phys ed thing. First of all, that phys ed thing was terrible. I had to do that when I was a child, and I was a fat girl, and I could not do a pull-up either.
The mile. I was always like the last freaking person to finish the mile. It was like I literally had anxiety as soon as they would mention the presidential fitness test. I was like, oh God, that's coming up.
I did like though when Rebecca's response to Kevin, because when he's like, that's right, I told Sophie to tell them, I just did that so the other one would feel better. And Rebecca went, ugh, Kevin.
I love that Sophie back then had his back and probably did tell him all that for him.
Oh, absolutely she did. Absolutely.
And, the funny part is too, that's such a real reaction. I could see, obviously I'm not a parent, but I could see a mother being disgusted about that.
Yeah. If my kid was, I might try to hide a little bit better, but I don't think I would be able to. I mean, that's an instinctive reaction. That just came right on the heels of when he was done. Yeah, I would have laughed.
I would have been like, that's clever. Good job.
But it's so funny though how different Kevin and Randall are, because Randall's over here beating himself up about hurting some kid's feelings, and then Kevin's over here making himself look good. Yeah. It's so funny how different they are.
But to be fair, Randall was the one who made the decision to pull out that chair so that he wasn't laughed at.
Yeah.
So they both did the same thing, only Randall just punished himself for feeling that way. But I mean, Randall didn't want it on him either, so he drew attention to somebody else.
Yeah. And then Jack teaching them to shave.
I love that he started with Randall, and he's like, okay, I'll teach you. I'll fix this problem so you don't have it. And then Kevin came in there, and he's like, hey, I want to do it too. And Jack is just so kind about it. And he's obviously his dad of boys, so he's the one who would have to teach them to shave. So, but I like that it wasn't like, I think at first it was Randall or Jack who said, you don't have anything to shave. Which one said that?
I think it was
Randall.
But Jack didn't care. He's like, no. Both boys, now we're all men, and we're gonna do this together, and I'm gonna have this moment with you. And I love it. I love that he got to have that moment.
Well, isn't that the best time to teach kids how to shave, before they have anything to shave?
Was anyone else thinking, oh God, I hope there's no actual blade in there? Because that's what I was
thinking. Yeah.
I was really nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just waiting for the blood to come spurting out, and I'm gonna have to throw up. I'm in the middle of eating dinner.
With all the flashbacks, we also saw more of Jack and Rebecca, which I love them. And so at the beginning, we saw them, they were married and stuff, and they were laying in bed, and Jack mentions that he saw a freckle on Rebecca's eyebrow, or right below Rebecca's eyebrow.
Are you talking about the scar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the scar.
I think that's why I got confused. I was like, I don't remember a freckle talk.
Yeah. Sorry, Maureen said freckle. It got me, But anyway, so it was a scar either above or below her eyebrow, and Jack never noticed it before, and she said that the sun has to hit it just right. Well, then when they were talking, when they laid down in the bed together, he said, I missed that scar. In the afterlife when they were laying down together, which I thought was so cute.
Yeah.
At the beginning of that conversation, when he was saying, I never noticed that scar before, I thought that it was an afterlife scene. I didn't realize that it was a flashback scene to
Mhm.
that free Saturday.
Mhm.
When they start talking about a free day and how Randall's thing was canceled, I was like, oh, okay, this isn't Afterlife. Okay, or maybe it still is, and I'm just really confused.
No, yeah, I was a little confused on that too, but I think my favorite part of like that, the Jack and Rebecca scenes at the end, was the montage of just showing the kids. Well, first of all, I do have to comment on Kevin giving his Jack impression, talking when he's like Beck and whatever he was like. It was so spot on that I was like, oh my gosh, he sounds exactly like Milo, and it was cracking me up.
Yeah.
But that led into like their cute little playful everything, and I love just the symmetry of, because Jack's having the conversation of, how you don't ever leave them, basically saying like you get to watch over them, and he stops from all the play and goes sits on the couch and is sort of just watching them. And so I felt like that was just showing that even though he's passed on, this is what he's been doing. He's been just watching them and having their lives. And I don't know, this is the part that made me bawl when Rebecca said, I don't want to leave them. And he was, he said, like, you won't ever, you don't leave them, you'll be there, you'll get these moments. It was just, oh, it's beautiful.
I like that little comment too, where she was like, I don't want to see everything. Like, I don't want to see gross stuff. I don't want to see the gross stuff. Like, I don't want to see them in the shower.
Right.
It was, and the one thing that I really liked too was how they were sitting on the couch together, and Rebecca was like, Jack, you're a 10 now. And then Jack was like, well, you're a 13. And she said, well, at least you know.
Yeah.
And like, it cracked me up, but it was so, because that was one like kind of emotional part of it, like when they were having that conversation. And like, it just goes to show that like it didn't go unnoticed that Jack actually did work on himself, and he wasn't drinking as much, and he was trying to be a better dad and everything. I just thought that part was very sweet.
Yeah, it was all just great. And then, we see, Randall and Deja, we jump forward, we see them sharing the look of her, like, and she's got her hand on her stomach. And I don't know, it was really about the most perfect ending I think we could have.
Yeah. And what a mom thing to say when he said you're a 13, and she's like, at least like, that's just, I don't know, like that's something that I could see my mother saying to my dad.
Yeah,
like definitely
banter.
Yeah.
I like that she started with, I would give you a higher score, but I hate when people say on a scale 1 to 10 and they go to 11 or 12, and then Jack's like, well, you're a 13.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, their relationship, I forget how much I like it, because a lot of this season we didn't get to see a whole lot of them. We had kind of moved into other stories where we didn't get nearly as many flashbacks of Jack and Rebecca. So it was really nice this episode.
It was nice to cement it and end it with how deeply they both loved each other.
Yeah. And I also, the line that he brings it back to, like the pin, the tail, and the donkey, when she had pointed, when she had said, what was it, when something this obvious is staring you in the face, you don't, what exactly did she say? You can't pass it by, or whatever it was, talking about the pin, the tail, and the donkey. And then when she says, that was about us meeting in that bar, and he repeats that back to her, I was like, man, Jack Pearson with his lines. I mean, he is sweet.
Jack, when the world puts something this obvious in front of you, you don't just walk away from it. You could be missing out on something very important. That's what she said.
Yeah. So then he ties that back into their love story.
And I mean, what a note to end it on. And I do love when she does squeeze his hand and Kate says, yeah, I saw that. And that's all that they say about it. They just let it be a heavy moment. They just let it be this goodbye. And I think it was I know we said this in the beginning, but I think it was a really beautiful close to a really, really heartfelt, well thought out, deeply emotional, and deeply connected story. I think it was a really, really nice way to end it. So, I mean, kudos, Dan Fogelman. I can't wait to see more from you. Although he works on Only Murders in the Building, and there's a season 2 there. So I think he's the producer, though. I don't know. I don't think he's the writer. I think he's the producer. But I can't wait to see more from him personally. And I hope that there's more. Like, I love Only Murders in the Building, but I hope there's more like this. That's an emotionally empathetic and connected storyline that we can just dig into, because I mean, it feels like we're part of the family. It feels like I'm a Pearson. So I care about these characters that much that I feel like I'm a Pearson. And so just kudos. And this is our goodbye to This Is Us.
Yep.
You guys have any other thoughts on the show and the series that you want to say before we close out?
I mean, it's one of the best shows I think that's ever been on television. From the first episode, I mean, I'll still remember. I still remember watching that first episode. I watched it live, and I remember the moment that it all clicked, that we are going back and forth in time, and I was absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've continued to surprise me and make me cry over and over again. So I mean, it's definitely one that I'm gonna miss for sure.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I watched it because of Justin Hartley, because I loved him from Smallville, and then he was on Young and the Restless, and he left Young and the Restless to do This Is Us.
Oh,
so that's why my mom and I watched This Is Us, because we were like, we need to know if this show is any good. So like we watched it, and then it got to the end, and my mom looked at me and she said, damn, this is a good show. We're not getting it on Young and the Restless. But then I was like, yeah, it is a good show. I'm gonna have to keep watching this to see what happens. But yeah, that's the only reason we started watching it, was because of Justin Hartley.
I think I did it for Milo, even though, I mean, we know I'm not Team Jess at all, but
any
I've
Gilmore
always
Girls
loved
character on a
Milo.
new show.
And I mean, obviously for Mandy Moore, because she's a queen, and I've loved her since I was 16 years old. So
I didn't realize she was on it until I watched it.
oh really?
I knew Milo because Lauren Graham's the reason I started watching Parenthood. Matt Zucker's the reason I started watching The Resident.
Yeah.
Milo
Lauren Graham's also, I mean, I watched Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
See, that's on my list. I haven't watched it yet. Alexis Bledell's the reason I wanted to watch The Handmaid's Tale. So like any Gilmore Girls, that's the reason. And I was so surprised that I loved every single person on this show equally. Yep. Shelby, what were you gonna say?
I started watching it for Mandy because of I love her and A Walk to Remember, and I like her music and everything. And I'm not usually into like emotional shows because I'm not that emotionally sound.
Because you're a robot?
Yeah, basically. But I will say this is one of the only shows that has made me cry, but has also made me laugh, and consistently. Yeah. And it's also one of the only shows that I think like you can tell that he had it all planned out from the start well. And he, regardless of everything that happened with COVID, because no one could have, thought that was going to happen, he told his story how he needed to tell it, and he stopped when he needed to stop. And I feel like that says a lot about Dan as a producer, director, whatever he is, writer, because it's like with movies and stuff, sometimes it's ruined when it goes too far. And the fact that he knew when to stop and how he wanted to stop it, I think is just amazing. And the fact that he kept with that, even regardless of what all happened, regardless of how famous it got, like he wasn't in it for the clout. He was in it to tell the story, and that's it.
That's a sign of a great writer.
You can also say that This Is Us is what brought us all together, by the way. Did you all think about this? This Is Us, our love for the show, is what made me and Shelby start our very first group, which was the This Is Us group.
Oh, really?
So This Is Us is the reason we are all sitting right here today.
I didn't know that. I thought Gilmore Girls was the first one you guys started.
Nope, it came soon after, but This Is Us was our first.
Wow. Look at you, Dan Fogelman. Look at how many people you brought together. That's awesome. I love that not only was This Is Us your first group, but it's also the biggest group that just exploded in the last year. Like we like tripled in size.
Like
we're at 36. I was just on there. I was getting rid of the unavailable people.
In the beginning of this year, This Is Us group was just under 10, right? In the beginning of the year. And now it's almost at 40. So we literally almost tripled in size. That's nuts. Dan, that's how popular the show is. So you got to run another show, because I had everyone's favorite teacher in high school was this guy named Mr. Fix. He was the most athletic guy you've ever met, super healthy. He unfortunately died of a heart attack when I was in college, but he was like, his funeral, we had to have it in the junior high auditorium, which was massive. And it was like theater seating. It had a balcony level that was full. Every single seat was full. There were people standing alongside of the room. There was people lined up around the block to get in. And that's how popular this writing teacher was, English teacher. And he always used to say, good writing evokes sensation. That's what Dan Fogelman has done. That's why this group has exploded, because Dan Fogelman can write emotion so freaking well. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, like, I want to give him a standing ovation, and like, I'm going to insert a slow clap here, maybe a fast clap. Not sure yet. I'm not editing this yet. So I'm going to add a clap of some sort right here, because I mean, good job. It was so well done.
And even, you know, even though the show's over too, I don't know how much you guys have been in the groups the past couple of days, but even with the show being over, it is still blowing up, guys.
Yeah. And people want to know
there has been so many new members.
Yeah, they want to know if we're keeping it open, like they plan to stick around. So yeah.
And there's questions on, you know, what are the actors' next stops? Like, what are their next moves coming out? I personally want to know, okay, Dan, what is the next show that you're going to create? That's what I want to know. Like, I love, people love these actors because of This Is Us. I mean, I like Milo and Mandy because I've seen them in other things. I've never seen, like, Sterling. I feel like I should have, but I never saw Sterling in anything else. Chrissy, I never saw anything else. And Justin, I never saw anything else.
But I didn't really, I'd only seen a few episodes of that. I've heard that's a good show. I don't know. And Justin, like I said, I knew he was in stuff, but I didn't watch any of it. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else.
Literally, Mandy Moore and Milo were the only two actors I knew anything about before I started watching the show.
Oh, I did know Alexander Breckenridge. Of course, I found Virgin River because of This Is Us. And then
you watched Bad Moms
was from the Fosters.
Yeah. And you watched Bad Moms with Milo, didn't you? I mean, with Justin, didn't you?
She probably didn't.
I didn't.
Well, no, not you.
I thought you were talking to Maureen. I was like, I guarantee she did not. But yeah.
No, but I guarantee you Jeanette did, because that's just her speed.
A few times.
Well, on that note, if you guys want to join our This Is Us group, it is This Is Us Pearson Family Fan Club. It will remain open. We will continue to discuss things as the actors come up with new projects, or as Dan comes up with something new, we'll post about it in there. Let's discuss things as you rewatch it. And, you know, if you don't know what This Is Us is, now is your perfect time to start watching without interruptions, because now you don't have to wait a week for new episodes. It's all done. It's all completed. Pick it up where it left off, or pick it up from the beginning and rewatch. Let's continue to share good things, happy things. Let's not fight in the group. Let's not attack other people for opinions. And remember that this is a fictional show that, and I think that's partly why this group fights so much, is because that's it. Dan, our group is contentious sometimes because of your writing. So, I mean, man, we love you for it, but at the same time, you're making our life a little difficult. So just remember in that group to be kind, recognize it's a show and people have opinions, not facts. So think about that as you join our show. And we are bringing you, we have a Grey's episode. That's our last Medical Wednesday is coming out on Wednesday for you. It is the Grey's Anatomy season finale, because it's renewed for a 19th season. So you'll get our last Medical Wednesday, followed by our 4 Bridgerton episodes, which are finally coming to you. I recognize that was done and that came out in March, but we waited so we can get our new episode recaps out for you, and we are finally bringing you our recaps of all 8 of the Bridgerton episodes. Enjoy those, have fun with those, and we're going to dig into our season 3 of our podcast after that. So look forward to those, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
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 For our listeners craving more, you can search for all 16 of our groups on Facebook by searching Family Fan Club. Come on over and join the conversation. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok under Fandom Family Chats. We try to always make sure to have something that will entertain. Of course, we'd also love your feedback, the good and any bad. And you can provide that by emailing us at familyfanclub2021@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for our website coming soon, where you'll be able to buy FFC merch and merch about some of your favorite TV shows with some favorite sayings and images. We're also working toward hosting a Comic-Con style event in 2024, where some of your favorite fandoms, cast, crew, and fans alike will come together for a fun-filled weekend. You can find those announcements on our website coming at you soon. Keep watching and listening, and as always, don't forget to share and subscribe.